Rangers Flyers, basically same old in a lot of ways, where trends continue. So the Rangers playing better hockey, coming off a couple of wins at Washington and then home against Buffalo. And the Buffalo game wasn't pretty, but they were able to win. So, they're coming on a 2-game winning streak. Playoffs still really not in view, but I guess you can dream if you want. So going into this 2 games against Philly, obviously what's on a lot of people's minds is the last game they played, where the Rangers won 9-0. And Mika Zibanejad would get 6 points in one single period and would get a natural hat trick within that. So 3 goals, 3 assists. They win 9-0. Just crazy statistics. That was the first game that Knobloch had coached in place of David Quinn. Quinn is still out to this point. He should be back soon. And even bigger news is that Shesterkin was out for 3 weeks and made his return for these Flyers games. And he looked tremendous. He was probably, maybe besides Zibanejad, but honestly, Shesterkin was probably their best player in these 2 games. He was fantastic. So Igor returns, and Philly at this point is really trending down. They had lost to the Islanders. They beat the Islanders in their first game after the 9-0 loss to the Rangers. Then they got destroyed by the Islanders over the weekend, and then they lost a close one in overtime in Philly. And they're kind of slowly falling out of that race. So with all that in mind, the Rangers would score fairly, well, it was really a back and forth game early. Flyers were getting a lot of chances. Shesterkin made some key saves, but the Rangers would get on the board first, and that would be a goal by Ryan Strome on a great pass from Panarin to give the Rangers a 1-0 lead. And I believe that Fox made a great pass to Panarin in the first place. Fox would get 5 assists. Let's just say that straight out. 5 assists for Fox in this game against Philly. Just continues his just amazing play and is certainly worthy of getting Norris Trophy votes. Anyone that's watching would know that, and he probably doesn't get the credit he deserves. I don't know if people are just aware of how great he's been. So they get that goal. Not too far after, Pavel Buchnevich scores on a good pass by Chris Kreider, 2-on-1, and Buchnevich buries it past Carter Hart. Carter Hart was starting in goal for Philly, and Zibanejad would get an assist. Keep that in mind. He gets his first point. Then the power play brigade would begin, and Zibanejad would score on a deflection on a shot by Fox. Strome would also get an assist. So this Zibanejad, Fox, Strome power play combination was great in these games against Philly. So the Rangers have a 3-0 lead. So after, having that 9-0 win, they're up 3-0, and it doesn't stop there. Zibanejad again in the power play with the Strome-Fox combo. Makes it 4-0. And this was a great pass by Fox, one-timer goal, Zibanejad. Then Zibanejad scores again on another one-timer, this time from Strome and Fox. Natural hat trick. He does it again. Just unbelievable. The turnaround for Zibanejad. He is one of the streakiest players in the league. There's no question about that. He is back to his torrid pace that we saw last year, where he's just scoring goals at a ridiculous clip. So Rangers take a 5-0 lead at that point again. Strome is having a very good season, and it's not just Panarin aided. He's really done a fantastic job this year, and I think the jury was out on him. What were you going to get? Because I didn't like his play at the end of last year. Was taking a lot of bad penalties, and he got off to a rough start early this year, but he's definitely silencing all the critics, including myself, and he's been great. So Hart's out of the game. Brian Elliott comes in, and right away, Keandre Miller scores. Zibanejad gets an assist there. So that's his 5th point. So the Rangers take a 6-0 lead. Then the Rangers play would get a little bit sloppy. And even within that 6-0 lead, Philly was getting chances and Shesterkin was making great saves. Claude Giroux would score to make it 6-1. Then eventually Kevin Hayes would score on the power play to make it 6-2. And at that point, you're thinking, okay, let's kind of settle this down. You don't want it to become 6-3. They would kill off another penalty, so it would be 6-2 headed into the third. And So Trouba took a late penalty at the second. So the Flyers have a power play in the third, and it looked like they were going to have a 5-on-3. Buchnevich kind of, not on purpose, but kind of high-staked it out of play. But it was close. It may have deflected off the glass. I think it went over clean. I think it probably should have been a penalty on Buchnevich. They didn't call it. What do you know? Buchnevich would score a stranded goal. Fox gets his 5th assist, and Zibanejad gets his 6th point. So Zibanejad again gets 12 points in 2 games, back-to-back games against the Flyers. Just stuff that you just don't see, and you won't see. It doesn't make any sense, and it's ridiculous. So that was a big goal. Makes it 7-2. Philly would score on that power play. Couturier would make it 7-3. And then at the end, Filipino scores on a goal assisted by Lafreniere, and the Rangers win at 8-3. At this point, they're in a dead tie with Philly. Same exact record. In fact, the Rangers technically were ahead at that point based on more regulation wins. I believe that's what it was, and that would make sense. Because what we see a lot, and we saw last year, the Rangers, they get their fair share of regulation wins, but they get way too many regulation losses. Much too many. Which is where I'll segue into this game. You knew that Philadelphia was going to come out strong. There was just no question. Again, they're playing poor. They've been embarrassed by the Rangers specifically. Rangers got lucky in the fact that when they beat them the last time, 9-0 at the Garden, they kind of took out their frustrations on the Islanders next game and won. This time, it was Rangers-Flyers again. And Philly came out really strong. And Shesterkin was up to the task. Made 17 saves in the first, and really tough saves at that. I mean, this guy is already in his early career becoming one of the best goaltenders in the league. I'd say his statistics don't even do him justice. He is being tested and making great saves. And the Rangers would score first, and it's the same combination. A power play goal. Konechny took a stupid penalty after the play. He was frustrated and kind of gave a cheap shot to Zibanejad, who would make him pay. Zibanejad scores again from Strome and Fox. So it happens again. So good start. Up 1-0. And the Rangers would have some more power play chances. I believe the one that I have in mind was in the second. And they had... Yeah, it was. And they had loads of opportunities, and they could not score. And you could just feel like, all right, this is going to be one of those games where they lose close. I couldn't help but think that. And they won't even be able to grind the game out and get it to overtime. They would eventually take some costly penalties. So there's a play. How it begins is they win the faceoff. Kreider beats Kevin Hayes in a faceoff cleanly. And they're not able to get the puck out. I don't know how Philly kept it in. I'd actually be curious to see a replay. I don't know how that was onside. But what it would lead to would be Chris Kreider taking Kevin Hayes down, which would lead to a Philly power play. And the Ranger penalty to that point had been playing pretty well because the Rangers had taken a penalty earlier in the period and were great. But unfortunately, Kevin Rooney just takes an aggressive, not smart penalty. Leads to a 5-on-3. Shesterkin comes up large. They kill off the 5-on-3 portion. But with 3 seconds left on the 5-on-4, they almost killed it completely off. Nolan Patrick scores on a deflection on a shot by Gostisbehere. And that ties the game up. And it's a tough one. You knew that that next goal at 1-0 was going to be critical. And Philly ties it up. 1-1. It would stay that way through 2. And again, the Rangers would have more power play opportunities. One that really comes to mind would be in the third. Now, in the third, Shesterkin makes a great save on a breakaway, I believe against Scott Lawton. I believe he was the one that came in all alone, and the fourth line was on for that. I think Colin Blackwell held onto the puck too long, leads to a turnover. So that fourth line has been pretty bad, and the third line has done nothing either. This has become a very top 6 heavy team lately, whereas early in the year they weren't getting enough from the top guys, but I felt like they were getting contributions throughout the lineup. That's changed, where the Stars have been kind of going crazy, at least statistically, and they're not getting really much of anything from the bottom guys. But Shesterkin makes that save. And then, again, I believe it was Lawton. It was a great penalty by Lawton. Panarin has an open opportunity, and Lawton, hooks him. I forget what the call. I think it was a hook. Because if Panarin gets that puck, there's a very good chance he's burying it. And the Rangers would not score on that power play. too many times this year, they've had chances to, there's just not enough killer instinct. And, of course, it would come back to bite them. That fourth line again. And this reminds me a little bit of the game last week at Washington, where in that game, the Rangers were the better team. This game, I'd say the Flyers were the better team. But in that game, they gave up 2 goals in the third, and the fourth line was on for those. Again, a little bit of a different personnel, right? Because now Howden has been out, so he's not part of that crew. But I guess, if memory serves me correct, Rooney definitely would have been, and probably Lemieux, just because Lemieux's no good. So what happens is you have Smith and Hayek on with that fourth line. Rooney, Blackwell, Lemieux. And the Rangers had some pretty good zone time. Lemieux had the puck behind the net, moving back and forth. But they weren't able to get off the ice. The Flyers were able to get it out, and Raffles all by himself. And Smith and Hayek both go to him. Then the puck goes to Rooney, who back passes it kind of just to no one. Flyers regain possession, and then Samuel Morin gets his first point of his career and what would be the game-winning goal. And it seemed like Shesterkin might have been screened by Smith. Hayek was out of position, just not great. Under 5 minutes. The same old story with the Rangers this year when it comes to this type of shit where they cannot get these games to overtime. Their goal differential, and again, skewed by certain crazy performances, but they've done such a poor job when it comes to not finding ways to get points all year long, and that continued again today. So you can blame the fourth line. You can, there's definitely, and you knew that Philly was going to come out strong here. And it's tough to, Shesterkin, some might blame him for that winning goal, but he was so good. And I'm not even sure if he saw it. But and the Rangers, as they usually do, when they give up these goals, nothing at all, basically nothing at all once they pull the goalie. They're one of the worst teams in the league when it comes to empty net opportunities. It's just not there. In fact, the highlights were them not allowing the Flyers to score an empty net goal. That was basically what you'll see on the highlight reels, was Fox and maybe Buchnevich and a few other guys just kind of sprawling to stop them from, taking a 3-1 lead. But again, Rangers lose, and very exciting about what happened the first game, but then the second game, it's just, they're not there. They're not there when it comes to getting over that hump and finding ways to win these games. Because even when they've won them, like when they won against Washington, where Zibanejad scored late, that was a situation where they were up 1-0 going to the third, and Carlson scored to tie it up, and they were kind of hanging on. And, of course, they were able to win that game, but my point is they are not the best at coming back, and even worse, they're not great at protecting those leads, and just, again, finding a way to get it to overtime. It's very critical. With the way the point system is, you cannot afford to get so many regulation losses. But again, what can they do moving forward? So as far as the Washington games, as I'm recording this now, they don't know whether David Quinn will be back behind the bench. If he's not back for the Sunday afternoon game in Washington, I'd definitely expect him to be back Tuesday at the Garden. So this is a back-to-back where it's actually a home and home, meaning first game's in Washington, and then the Rangers are home for the Tuesday game. They also haven't announced who the goalie will be for tomorrow's Sunday noon game in Washington. I don't think it'll be Shesterkin. I think it's a matter of whether it'll be Georgiev or Kincaid. And if I had to guess, I think you'll see Georgiev, in the crease. So, again, kind of a trends continuing type of thing for the Rangers here. And they seem to be a team that's mostly on the rise, but with a lot to clean up, especially in close games. And it's, it definitely gets frustrating, as this continues. So we'll see how they do against a very strong Washington team who they've had success against. And I'll talk to you soon.